Was long.
I didn't realize
Um,
our time was
yeah,
so long.
it's okay. So, whew, that was a long show. There was once again a whole lot going on in there.
Right.
Hey, I wanted to ask you because I found your Constitution stuff fascinating. I learned a lot about the state consortium thing. Did I say that right?
Convention.
Convention.
Mhm.
Is it really organized to the point where we can, like, you know how New York and California has such a stronghold on ideology because of the densely populated areas that they are in the so-called flyover states? Can the flyover states so-called get together with this convention kind of thing and pass things, actually get some
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, let me pull this up real quick. So
I don't know.
in
Maybe that's something you want to say for a future podcast, but I'm just curious.
no, I mean I think we can talk about it, but let's see, Article 5, here it is. Yeah, Congress, whenever two-thirds of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of two-thirds of several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments. That's the part that's never been done. We've never called a convention for proposing amendments. So there's two ways to propose amendments. The 27 times it's been done the first way. It's never been done the second way, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of three-fourths of several states or by the conventions of three-fourths thereof. Okay, you see, now let me just point out is so the legislature, once they do an amendment, they've got to pass it, and then it's got to be ratified by three-fourths of several states. Okay, so that's how we've gotten our 27 amendments. But with the state convention, they get together, and that's what is it? It's two-thirds of the states, and if they get together, if three-fourths of them decide in a certain way, that's an amendment. They're not going to the legislature to get that approved. Do you
But that's
understand what
never
I'm
been
saying?
done before.
Never been done. So for instance, what congressman, what senator or representative would vote for term limits?
Right.
I mean, they're
Right.
never going. And isn't it funny that you've got term limits for the president? And by the way, in the Constitution, that there was no term limits for the president either. Um, that's an amendment that happened. And we talked about that today after
Right.
FDR.
Right.
But they didn't put an amendment in there for term limits for themselves, just the president.
And that is one thing that most every American knows about because you always see that on social media about, term limits. And I didn't know this about the states thing. So that's something that needs to be talked about more because that needs to
Everybody should
happen.
know about this. Exactly, because right now, this is to me our big hope in America is that people learn about what's in this Fifth Amendment. I mean, Article 5, and they start talking to their state legislatures about this. And like I said, you already have 14 states that have entered into this. You need another 20 states in order to have that two-thirds of the several states. And with everything that just happened with this election, like for instance,
I got a quick question for you because it's very pertinent. All right. So to get a state to enter into that, is that your representatives from the House
that,
that
that
have to
no,
vote?
that no, this is your state legislature. So it's
Okay,
your
but you said a couple of weeks ago, I agreed with you. You're like, do you even know who your legislators are?
right.
And I'm
We
like,
don't.
yeah.
We don't know
So
who they are.
here's my question.
Which is
So
another
we,
damage that the 17th Amendment did, right? We'd actually know who these guys were, and we'd call them, hey, get in that convention for proposing amendments.
so is it kind of, all right. We know that the House and Senate would never pass term limits. Why would
Yeah.
those guys?
Oh, because it doesn't apply to them. This is okay. So this is your state legislature in Ohio voting for term limits for the federal legislature.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
for
Okay.
those, remember the states are the ones that form the federal government, so they never wanted to form a monster that would eat them, and so this is why
Okay.
this is in here.
So they are that. separate. Your state
Yeah,
legislators, like
it's
I'm
separate.
wondering how tied they are with those guys. So,
No, no, no. They have to, and what I showed you, and it's right here, I think in six, is that it says that senators, representatives, before mentioned, and members of the several state legislatures and all the executive judicial officers, both United States and of several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support the Constitution. So these people in the state legislature take an oath to the Constitution. But what I'm talking about as far as term limits, that applies to the federal. What they would be making changes to in the state
I follow you.
convention is for the federal, the the
Okay.
Senate and the
That sounds
House.
great, man.
That's what
Yeah.
they need to do. And
Mhm.
it was never the founding principles that people would come in and make a career out of being a representative, like Nancy Pelosi's been in there for
Right.
40 years, or Joe Biden was a senator for 40
Right.
years.
You're
I mean,
supposed to just
that
get
was
off
never
your
supposed to
farm.
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be everyday Americans going in and doing their duty for
That's
a couple
that's
years. Yeah.
correct. That's exactly
Yeah.
correct. And it's turned into this. And plus, some other things have happened too. Like we have, as a country, this is interesting, really because of the principles of a free market under this constitutional system, has allowed our creative beings to invent, and because of our system of capital with Wall Street and investments, and really this intangible properties, securities, that's all invented by the United States. These things have caused us to have scientific breakthroughs, which have allowed our lives to actually become extended. They weren't counting on that people would live to be like 100 years old, and
Right.
be in the Senate for 50, 60 years. That
Right.
was never a consideration back then.
Mm,
But
right.
they actually kind of made that happen with this great system that they put in place. But anyhow, yeah, back to
It
Article
is
5.
miraculous. Oh, go
It
ahead.
is. Back to Article 5. Again, this is where we can start taking a look at changing amendment, some of these amendments, like the 16th Amendment that brought in our IRS and our ways of funding our government, and changing those things, changing term limits, changing the way our senators are elected, really putting our government's feet to the fire as far as running the government, much like you would run your household, where you wouldn't put yourself into severe debt,
Mm.
so that even your kids and your grandkids would have to pay off your debt. You would never do that. We don't want our federal government doing that to our kids as well. And we can put in things into our Constitution to protect us from that through the states. And it's time for the states to step up to the plate. It's now they need to do
So
that.
you're saying that is through Article 5?
That's through Article 5 of the Constitution. Yep.
Okay.
I was just reading. I read you almost all of it just then.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, man. I'm learning a lot, but there's a lot like feel like soon as it's kind of like quantum physics. Like just when I think I got it, it's like I gotta go back and review this part because I want to make sure, I gotta review it.
I'm glad you're so interested, Barry.
Oh, I've learned a ton. It's really important. And
It's really not it's not really like quantum physics. It's just diving into it without somebody to help you that's excited about it. It becomes boring. And but
yeah, you're right. You're
you
right.
can, but if you really know how it interacts with how your everyday life and what's in the news, then suddenly it becomes exciting. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, I did what?
Well,
You know
that's
what I
it.
mean?
When we're
You need
watching
the
all
right
these
teacher.
when we're watching all these crazy things unfold on a
Right.
weekly basis, God.
Right. And you're like, why are these people acting? Why can't the president just, like, it was an
Yeah.
interesting thing. One of the things that I didn't talk about today is that the legislature has the sole power of um, of immigration, and so they're the ones that legislate everything. They're completely in charge of that. So when Obama was out there and he was talking about the border, and he was on Univision or one of those Mexican channels, and they were pushing him, and they were saying, "Hey, why don't you just have an executive order and just open up the borders?" And he's like, "I can't do that, and I can't do that I can't make these dreamers legal. I can't do that through executive order. That's constitutionally, I can't do that." And then in his second term, he ended up passing the Dream Act or whatever. That was it. That was actually by executive order. That wasn't
Mm.
something that came up through Congress or anything like that. He actually said for 4 years he wasn't allowed to do that constitutionally. And then after he was elected the second time in his last term, he didn't have anything to worry about, so he just did it. And
Jeez.
yeah, and so so he knew it wasn't constitutional to do that,
Mm.
and he did it anyhow. And we see these kinds of things happening all the time, and they can get away with it as long as the general public doesn't realize that it's not constitutional to do it. Much like that whole thing with Iran and the load of money. Where did that come from?
Yeah, man. Hey, let me ask you this. I wanted to ask you during the podcast. God, we didn't have enough time to cover everything that we want to cover. But okay, so Biden gets in the office. They got the Senate and the House, and I heard that the squad is already putting pressure on Biden. He's not even in yet. How much damage do you think they can do in a couple years?
Well, it depends on what kind of spine Biden has, to be honest with you.
I think don't you got the sense that he's pretty, honestly, at the end of the day, he's pretty moderate, and he thinks he's a tough guy, so he's not going to just bend to somebody's will.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think he's the tough guy.
I think he thinks he's a tough guy.
I think he might think that,
Yeah.
but here's I think it's a good discussion point, because what I saw Biden do with this whole thing that happened this week. He came out and he said, you know, and he made a very passionate point about this. Is he was saying that he had a discussion with his granddaughter, and she had brought up the point of, she sent him a picture of the police guarding the Lincoln Monument, Lincoln Memorial, during a Black Lives Matter event. And Joe Biden was making the point that if this had been a Black Lives Matter event that happened the other day, that the police, everybody would have handled it much differently than what was handled, the way it was handled here. And my thing is this, and he says, and that's just unacceptable, as he's pounding the podium. And it's like, well, wait a second. What? A woman was actually shot and killed.
Yeah.
And I don't understand.
Didn't the second guy die this morning?
Yeah, I read that too, and I'm like, wait, why are we saw a terrible thing happen with the Capitol being attacked and broken into, then you have to turn this into some kind of racism thing. To me, that didn't have anything to do with racism. What happened the other day?
They turned everything into racism.
But now the mainstream media, all of them, are talking about how this was a racist thing that happened. And what I'm saying is that even Biden, his knee-jerk reaction was to turn it into a racist thing, and that's, to me, the squad. I don't think he's their patsy.
Okay. That's bleak.
It isn't good. I mean, I have not seen him really stand up to anybody about any of these kinds of things. And the other thing too is here's a concerning trend that I've also seen, is that he's very protective with the press, and the press is treating him with kid gloves. That's scary to me. I certainly don't want Joe Biden to be treated like Trump was treated by the press, but I don't think that the press should be friends with the president.
They're used to it for 8 years. Now they're like, they threw a temper tantrum for 4. Now they're right back to, oh, thank God,
Oh, I know. I mean, as we take a look at the difference between a Trump interview and a Biden interview, or a Nancy Pelosi interview, it's day and night. I mean, the double standard that we're seeing right now is really scary. The way that these guys are painting our world, I mean, what I got out of this week was that anybody that voted for Trump is dangerous. I mean, that seemed to be the message that was coming out. And I think that that's exactly what we've seen in communist countries, and even in socialist countries, where they just purge those people. And
You
that's
know,
what happened.
you and I, we learned that growing up about the dangers of propaganda, and then they turn it around and say, and that's why freedom of speech here is so important because our media brings out the truth. This is what I think our single biggest problem is today: is our media and social media. It is manipulating us, and
It is.
it's just what you said. So they're not going to hold anybody from the left accountable. And
No, they're not.
yeah, so this is a huge problem. And I don't know, we got to get you on that Social Dilemma. Lisa wants to
I'd love
watch
to see
it,
that. Yeah.
and I want to watch it with her. You got to just look up, you could buy it
Yeah.
somewhere for $4 or something, I'm
Yeah, you're right.
sure. Yeah,
But I mean,
probably Amazon Prime. I'd look there first.
yeah, this you're right though, Barry. I mean, I would say my analogy on this is like wearing glasses, and the media creates these glasses for us to view the world in. And because they're corrupt, it's almost like have you ever I remember as a kid, I put on my grandfather's glasses and I tried to walk and I fell all down and everything, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
They're putting these glasses on us and we're trying to walk and we can't even walk anymore. We can't even talk to our neighbors anymore.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what has been created now. And isn't it funny when if you stop watching the media or going on social media for just a week,
Yep.
how much more enjoyable your life becomes, and how much more sunny it looks outside.
No
It's
kidding,
really
because
pretty
I've done
crazy.
that for a couple months for a large
Yeah,
part. I like to watch The Five to
I
get,
like that show too.
all sides,
Right.
both sides, and then Dana Perino is the
I
voice
like
of
her.
common sense in the
Yeah.
middle.
Yeah.
And but dude, I haven't been able to watch that much lately. Greg Gutfeld, who I've always loved and respected, he's an amazing writer, an amazing mind, but he's turned into the like Joe Scarborough.
Oh, you're
Uh,
kidding me.
oh, he's been
Like Joe
losing his
Scarborough?
damn, well, Joe Scarborough all of a sudden went crazy left 5 years
Yeah,
ago
right. Is
when
that's
he
not happening to Greg Gutfeld, is it?
no, he's done that
Oh,
on the right.
okay. All
He's
right.
done that for the right. He's gotten very emotional and immature, lashing out, and it's hard to watch.
And Joe Scarborough's was a Republican, so
I
that's why I
know.
thought that he
No,
maybe.
no,
Oh
no,
my God,
no.
not Greg
I'm saying
Gutfeld.
he's become his
Yeah,
counterpart.
yeah, I
Is
see
what I'm
what you're
saying.
saying. I don't
Yeah.
like that. I don't like.
If you got to get all emotional and start yelling over the person that you're talking to, then I don't think
Yeah.
you got a really valid point.
I think you're right about that. I
No.
think it's interesting. I was having a conversation with my mom about this, and we were talking about anger and righteous indignation,
Good
and
subject.
I was telling her, look, I just feel like there's we don't have to raise our voices. We can be angry, but we don't have to yell at each other. We don't have to get all emotional. And she actually pointed to some biblical references where Jesus was clearly angry. And she said, "Well, here's the point right here where Jesus kicks everybody out of the temple, and he actually makes a whip, and he turns over tables of the money changers, and he says that you've turned my house into a den of thieves. This is supposed to be a temple of worship to my Father." And I said, "Yeah." But it doesn't say anywhere in there that he actually raised his voice. And I said, "Here's something, Mom. Is like I had this experience when I was a kid with her mom. She was like the nicest person I ever met. I never heard her yell. She was always pleasant, always really nice. One day I did something and it was just her and I crossed her, and she got stern with me. She didn't raise her voice. She just got stern. Dude, that crushed me. And it also
Mm.
scared the crap out of me to see her look
Yeah.
at me like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying, Mom, it was way scarier to see her like that than
Mm.
if she would have just gotten all crazy and started yelling. I don't think I would have respected that. The
Yeah,
calm
that's what it is.
authority that she had, I thought I was gonna die. Like I thought she was gonna melt me with her steely blue eyes right there. And I never wanted that to happen to me again.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
and just so I just really believe that you can make your point so much better if you just use the facts, and you have love in your heart, and you respect and you have empathy for the other person and their
Yeah.
feelings and where they're coming from, and try to
Keeps
meet
the
them
trap
where they
door
are.
open. Remember
There,
what you
that's
said?
such a big point.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And as long as we're listening to each other, it's like this. I had a meeting the other day, just yesterday, with one of the VAs, the VA hospitals. I'm so honored to be able to work with a
Oh,
VA
nice.
hospital, right?
Yeah.
And so, of
Sure.
course, I want to. I know that our product is going to be able to help save actual lives. And I'm talking to their chief information officer, and he starts telling us, well, we want this, that, and the other, and we don't actually do it that way. And rather than telling them, I don't really do it that way, no. The question is more, well, why do you want to do that? How's that going to help you? And when he explained it to us, what the root of what he was trying to do, um, then we had an answer for him.
Mm.
And I think that's what we need to do in our relationships. Is like
Ask why.
my neighbor across the street is he's politically on the other side of the aisle. I love him, and he's my neighbor, and we have more in common than we have not in common. And there are certain things that we can that when he says, hey, this is what I want, um, that I say, okay, I understand that, but I kind of see something that we both, why do you want that? And when he starts explaining it to me, and I find common ground with him. I
What you
see
said.
why you want that. Okay.
This is something we should bring up on the regular podcast, because what you said there, just to boil it down and make a point of it, is what's not going on. Is you
That's
ask
right.
why.
Right.
Yeah, you don't just
Right.
start yelling your side. You ask why, and then you listen.
What's the root cause of why you want that? And once we understand the root, then we're going to find out that we have a lot of things in common.
We got to remember
Because
this. Yeah.
because the root cause is that he wants to protect his family. He wants to be able to have a good life, and be able to be prosperous as well. He wants to be able to pass on something to his posterity. We all want those kinds of things. It's just, how do we get there? That's what we
Right.
need to be. We need to be, like I said in the beginning, why can't we just all be Americans? And
Yeah.
then when we have different sides, but we're on the same team. We're not on different sides. We're on the same team. And that's what
Nah,
we're missing right now.
that's again in the media. The media is all about dividing us.
That's
That's
exactly
the
right.
problem.
Which is a tactic
It
that
is.
has been used time and time again,
Mm-hmm.
to break down a society so that
Yes.
they can have their own society. So
Works
I
every
was
time.
kind of getting to this on our regular show, but you changed the subject, and I think it was kind of got a little bit hot for a second. But where I was going with that whole thing was, if I wanted to destroy a nation, I would, like America, I would take a look at the peaceful protests that happened over the summer. And if I had the means, like if I was a George Soros guy and I really wanted, and he's the guy destroys countries, that's what he does. If I wanted to destroy the citizenry, I would embed people on both sides, and inflame the relationships between those two sides
Mm-hmm.
so that they're
Mm-hmm.
pointing fingers at each other. Then I would swoop in and take over.
Dude,
And
that's
that seems to
exactly,
be what's happening.
yes, that's exactly what the social dilemma points out. And that is happening, and it showed in much smaller countries how it's already been done.
It's been done by our own government, CIA.
Mm.
This is what the CIA has done. These exact same tactics. There's a term for it. I can't remember what it's called now, but they've taken down countries and turned them into what they wanted them to be, using these exact same tactics, embedding people into political parties to do
Mm-hmm.
these kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things. It's the same thing. It's happening. We're being played, is what's
Yeah,
happening.
they made the point too in that movie that if you're rich, if you have the means, you could do it legally through Facebook, because you could target anybody that you want wherever that you want, and you can pump out exactly, you could skew the information they are being fed, and do exactly that. They were alluding to the fact that George Soros would do that.
Yeah, and when you take a look at how the bureaucratic system that's been created in the 1900s, that now we have nameless, faceless people that are actually controlling our government, and they have unlimited access to money because, unlike what we just showed, where only the only way to raise revenue is through the legislature. Remember, I just showed you that.
Mhm.
Well, these the way they got around this is these bureaucracies, they make regulations. They're not actually making laws. And regulations, you need money to make regulations. So it's a loophole. They can get whatever money they want. It's not a law. So I'm not actually breaking the Constitution by raising revenues. I'm actually making a regulation. It's not a law. They've figured out a way around it. And so they can raise whatever amounts of money they want. And when you have also throw into the mix, now you have these huge multinational corporations that where their large amounts of their revenue, even majorities of their revenue, are coming from overseas and not America. They're not loyal to what happens in America any longer. So you get the George Soroses of the world's empowered, the Bill Gates of the world's empowered to be able to come in with their companies, with their huge amounts of monies, with their influences, with lobbyists into the bureaucracy to be able to actually get things done by circumventing our own constitutional government. This
Mhm.
is the danger that we're in. And I can see that if you're those multinational companies with billions and billions and unlimited money and unlimited influence on a particular government, on a wealthy nation, here's how you can milk all the money right out of that nation into your own elite group's pockets.
That's scary.
Well, it is. And that's why this Article 5 of the Constitution becomes so important, because while the federal government may uh, have have motivations to stay the course with this thing that's going to destroy our country, the states are not incented the same way. And so they are actually motivated to protect against those things that are destroying the citizenry of their states, and hopefully they'll sweep in and do the right thing. That's what I'm hoping will happen right here. But I feel like it's important. I felt like I was talking about this with Anne Marie last night, that I feel like maybe because of my knowledge of history and the Constitution and even my knowledge of God, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do in life, is teach people this. This is why this is so important. This
Maybe
article 5 is really our only alternative to get the heck
dust it,
out of this right now.
dust that thing off, polish it up, and put it in front of the American people, because it sounds like it's kind of like how you'll talk about how things just started getting done. The president did this unconstitutionally, people did that unconstitutionally, and it starts becoming something of a norm and accepted, just how Article 5 has gotten ignored all these years, and that's been accepted.
Yep.
So maybe we ought to dust that thing off and polish it up a little bit.
Agreed.
Hey, dude, what are you
I'm
doing this weekend? We're going to have to wrap up here.
Yeah. So no plans once again. I'm glad it's the
Same here.
weekend. I've got
Yeah.
a big day here today as well, with appointments and meetings and everything going on. I don't think I told you that. So we did a little bit of a reorg on my team. So I have a new boss that I'm reporting to, and now I'm on a team of people that are like me. They have the same role in the
You told me
country,
about it. We talked
and I'm
about that.
really enjoying it so far.
I would think so,
It's
because you
really
got a
cool.
collective mind there that you can
Yeah,
bounce
yeah.
things off
The
of.
guy I'm reporting to is a great guy.
Cool.
Already, I'm very much enjoying working with him. So, miss the guy that I was working for, but I think I see some very positive things going on here, and I'm excited about the future.
Oh, that's cool, man. That sounds great. I think you're going to have a gangbuster year, 2021. I was thinking we're going to need to do our Christmas special, probably December 1st or something. You're going to be so damn busy.
Maybe,
You
maybe
know,
we'll see. Yep.
and New Year's. Yeah, we're gonna have to do them all like in a marathon Saturday or something at the beginning of
Right, right.
December. Yeah, you're
Yep,
gonna be
yep.
busy closing a bunch of big deals.
I plan on it.
That's cool. We don't really have anything going on, but what could be going on? We still,
That's the thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we're still in it, Hey, here's something.
Oh,
I
what am
was
I saying though? Sunday is going to be a buzz here with the playoffs.
that
Sunday
is true.
night, there's a really good game on during the day. Um, who is it? Ravens playing. The Titans. Great game. Great game. So that's a day game. I'll be watching that. So the Browns and Steelers don't play until 8 o'clock at night here. So that's gonna be a long
Okay.
day.
Yeah,
Long
no
day.
kidding.
Yeah.
Well, out here, we had this special lockdown extended for
Oh,
another month, and so we're hearing this week that LA is the hottest spot in the world for
yeah.
COVID right now, and that 1 in 5 people have it. I have a really hard time believing that. And that they're saying there's been a 945% increase in COVID cases since November. And so they're saying avoid eating or drinking with anyone outside your house. Let's see. Here's a big one. County emergency services are saying do not transport patients to the hospital if they have a slim chance of survival.
Yeah, dude, I've heard a lot about what's going on with your hospitals. That there's just a big long wait right outside of them. People are waiting hours just to get in there.
We heard that the last time back in March, and
In New York, about New York, and they
we
were
heard it over
putting
here
up
too.
fake footage. Yeah.
Well, I rode my bicycle over to the hospital, the Kaiser down the street, and there was nobody out there. So that was just weird. Let's see. So they're saying too many bodies for the coroner to handle it right
Yeah.
now. And they're now saying not only to stay away from people outside your house, but I have to stay away from Anne Marie now. That's what
Yeah.
they're saying, that like stay away
Really?
from people in your house. I'm like, okay, what? Okay. And here's the one thing I have to say about this.
Mm.
And it's interesting. As I watched all these rallies and all this footage over the weekend, I was seeing people shoulder to shoulder in these groups, not wearing masks.
Mm.
And I was kind of ticked off, to be honest with you, because everywhere I go out here, everyone's wearing masks, Barry. I mean,
Mhm.
we're wearing masks in the store. People are wearing them in their cars.
We are too.
People are riding their bicycles wearing masks. I mean masks are, if you wouldn't think of going into a store without a mask on.
Right.
and,
Same
and
here.
it, I've seen it walking their dogs outside all by themselves. They're wearing masks. I mean, people are really doing this, and yet this is the hottest spot in the world. I don't understand. How is it that is this really working? I'm confused on this whole thing.
Well, here's what I
I've heard
see.
masks work. I heard they don't work. And then all these,
Sure.
I don't know if I'm buying into this whole, I'm going to wear my mask, but I just feel like, I just feel like this thing we got the vaccine. That's great. But
Mhm.
there is a thing called herd immunity. That's
Yeah.
actually happening right now.
Yeah. You guys should be approaching that soon.
I would think so. I just think, look, we're in the middle of flu season. We should have expected the spike to happen at this point because it coincides directly with flu season.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
funny that their predictions of when it's going to be over coincide exactly with when the flu season ends. So it's, this is just going to run its course. We're going to get the vaccine. We're just going to have to see how it goes. But it just seems, stay away from people in your own house. That seems that's ridiculous.
I don't know. I think for 95% of people that get it, just stay at home and run it out. Sure, it's going
That's
to
right.
suck. It's the
Just
flu.
like if you have the flu, don't go
Right.
out. If you got the flu, how dare you go out and infect a bunch of people?
Well,
with the
my point is
flu?
go to the hospital. Why go to the hospital? I mean,
If you have the flu, right?
yeah, if you get it, I think people are just panicking.
I think
So
you're
they-
right
yeah,
about that. People are panicking, and then the hospital, of course, has liabilities, so they can't just say, "Oh, well, goodbye,"
yeah.
and then you die. They can't do that. So you've got that kind of thing going on here, and we already know what the statistics are as far as people that your chances of death on this whole thing. I'm not trying to minimize the whole thing, but there. When you get to the point where you got to be afraid of the people in your own house, I think we've done a number on.
You know what they could possibly do, and wonder what a study would be like. But if they said, people like you, okay, if you're not your immunity system's not compromised, or if you're not elderly, go outside and lick a handrail. And we want all of you to get COVID that can handle it. stay at home, get over it, and we'll be on the other side of this thing within a month.
I saw an article that said at the end of the year that said that we'd done 2 million vaccinations in since the vaccination rolled out, and 3 million people have newly contracted COVID. So the disease is actually immunizing people faster
Yes.
than the
Yes.
government is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, eh.
Well, you know what though? It's probably more the healthy people that are actually getting it because it's, younger people that aren't being as careful. But man, get those elderly people, compromised people
Yeah,
vaccinated ASAP.
that's what
And
I
I'm
say.
going to be living a lot. Then I'm not going to be worried about,
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's really who'd have thought. And here's the thing that I'm concerned about is the next one that comes around, because there's always another one coming around. I mean, we've
well, it's
had
supposed to
these.
be every 50 years, about on
Well,
average.
we've had, you remember the swine flu and the bird flu and the
We had
one
the
that dissolves your
H1N1,
skin.
wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
H1N1.
we've had all these ones, but we've never treated them like this one before.
It wasn't as
It's
highly contagious though. Lisa and I had
true.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that I just feel like, the next one, now we've set a precedent. Like, well,
Mm.
this one could be even worse than COVID. Close down everything preemptively. And so I don't know. It just seems interesting. Precedents are important, and
Well,
I think we're setting a lot of new ones here that might not be the wisest things to do.
I don't know. I just hope that we can eradicate this like polio. You know,
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
do. This is just too. This is really a very, very highly contagious thing. But you mentioned about masks. I don't know. You say I don't know if masks work or not.
I have no
Well,
idea.
I haven't had so much as a common cold this winter. I
Me
normally,
too.
and I haven't expected. Dude, I'm always wearing a mask. I'm always washing my hands. All of that. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to. I got my flu shot because I was at the doctor and he said I should, but I knew I wasn't going to get the regular flu. Well, I rarely. I've had the flu a handful of times in my adult life, like three.
Yeah,
Um,
that's about it for me too.
yeah. So I don't know.
I've
I don't
never
know.
had a flu shot. I don't want a flu shot. So that's where it kind of rubs me on the vaccination here. I don't want to get a vaccination. I don't want to get a shot. But I don't they that kind of thing makes me nervous. And I think it makes a lot of people nervous, right? I mean, that's a normal thing. But here's another thing, is I don't trust our government, and I don't think we're supposed to trust them. According to the Constitution, it's written in a way that says they're not trustworthy. That's why we
Hmm.
have checks and balances.
Hmm.
So it's all, there's a lot of things here to think about. I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. We'll just have to see what happens.
Well, enough of us will get that need to get vaccinated. Will get vaccinated. I will. I'll be happy to. And those that don't will get COVID and be done with it. So we're
Well,
still going to reach the herd immunity
yeah.
eventually.
Speaking of that, I thought it was really interesting to find out from. I was talking to Megan, our nurse friend, and all, and she was talking about, and I've been seeing this all over, where a big reason why they're behind in the immunizations is a lot of people on the medical side decided not to get the vaccination.
Hmm. Well, that's what I told you
They
last
they
week.
purely
Is
they passed it, and they're allowed to do that. And did you see
that's
what Megan said about the? That's right, you did say that about the
yeah.
FDA approval, and that they can't force
Yes.
them to take it.
Yes, I did see that, and I watched about three quarters or more of the video that she shared. It was pretty eye opening. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that today too, but that was yet another thing we didn't get to.
How
So
about Cuomo and that law that they're looking at to if somebody has COVID, that the governor can appoint a commission to have those people incarcerated.
I didn't see that.
Yep, that it hasn't passed yet, but that's the bill on the floor
Where
in New
would they
York.
house all these people?
Well, that part has not been determined, but it's not just the governor or his appointees or trustees. So he can actually form sort of a bureaucracy and have them make the decision. So in other words, they're unaccountable.
Mm-hmm.
and they can make decisions, and they can, just like in China, you've seen the videos where a van pulls up and they drag people out of their
Yeah.
houses, and
Yeah.
and who knows where they go from there.
Right.
That's exact. So, they're using this disease to implement tactics, government tactics that are being used in highly oppressive, human right violation countries like China.
Yeah. No, I didn't hear about that, but
Yeah,
Cuomo never ceases to amaze me.
no, seriously, like what? Did you see that one where he was in a video with Fauci, and they were talking, they were laughing, and yeah, we're gonna just take over, and it's gonna be like, one of us is gonna be Pacino, and the other one's De Niro. Which one do you want to be? And
I
they were
didn't see
laughing.
that.
They were laughing about it and everything, and I'm like,
Didn't
wait a
realize the
second.
mic was hot.
No, they were in an interview, and
Oh.
and they're laughing about it, and Fauci says, "Oh, I don't want to decide. I like Pacino and I like De Niro. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings." And they're laughing and everything. I'm like, but don't you realize these are two guys that are constantly playing gangsters and they kill everybody? You want to be those guys? And they're like
Wow.
very Italian guys,
Yeah.
like, come on, guys, think about what you're broadcasting out here, scaring us here.
Jeez. Hey,
Say hello
bud.
to my little friend. All right. We should wrap it up here.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, so I never did this before. I accidentally hit stop recording at the end of our podcast, and then I started it again. I hope that doesn't, like, when this goes to download, I hope our podcast is there.
Oh my God. No, it's gonna be. We'll just have to use this one then. 'Cause we covered everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
All right. Well,
right, bro.
whatever happens, the best thing will happen.
Yeah. All right, dude. Love you,
All
man.
right, love you,
Have a
man.
good
I'll
weekend.
talk to you later.